where I am. And we specialize in corporate and finance law. And I'm really excited for all of you to be here today. In today's kickoff discussion, we'll be exploring how we create space for Black women to advance into the C-suite and boards. We have a very meaty agenda to get through today, so we'd love to get to know who you are out there. Please put in the chat your name, your affiliation, your LinkedIn, and where you're calling in from. I want to quickly take an opportunity to introduce you to all of our hosts. In addition to me, you have Deborah Robinson, Charlotta Carter, Kenya Dunn, Philomena Agba, Leli, who was unable to join us today, and Joyce Kacha. Thank you to our sponsor. We want to give a special thanks for our series sponsor, BMO Financial Group. Later in the program, we will meet Kimberly Good, who is Chief Communications and Social Impact Officer at BMO Financial Group. So we're excited for you to join in for this critical conversation, and here's what's on our agenda for today. We're going to do our C-suite panel in just a few minutes. We'll then follow up with a Q&A. We'll have sponsor remarks and a breakout, and then we'll do a quick closing, and we'll end hopefully right on time at 9. Before we delve into our program, though, I want to take a few minutes to just talk a little bit about how women lead. How Women Lead is at the center of a movement to disrupt antiquated, unequal systems by propelling women into even greater leadership roles. How Women Lead is the umbrella organization made up of 3 primary pillars: leadership, philanthropy, and investing. And at its core, it is our network of 14,000 women who have created a community of action and impact. How Women Lead has trained over 500 women for corporate boards. How Women Give has provided over 500,000 in grants to Bay Area organizations that are focused on women and girls. And How Women Invest is our $10 million venture fund investing in female-founded and led companies and bringing more women to the investment table. Your involvement will continue to help How Women Lead, evolve, and innovate. So please don't hold back and jump in and help shape our organization's impact. At How Women Lead, we have a culture that promotes women, and honestly, it starts with us. Women can be better with and for each other. And here's what we all have to do. We have to be fierce advocates for each other. Say yes to helping and connecting each other. If she asks for an introduction, make your first reaction yes. Men are much better at this than women. We ask you to reinforce her voice. When she speaks up and she isn't heard, be her megaphone and ensure she gets credit. And fourth, and maybe most importantly, you get out there and be unabashedly visible. Build your LinkedIn, build your thought leadership. Network is part of your workday. The old ways of women being invisible are absolutely over. There is nothing indelicate about standing in your power and owning your voice. Please give me a thumbs up if you want to join me in this culture. Now I'll hand it over to today's moderator, Mary Stutz. She's the Chief Global Inclusion and Health Equity Officer at Real Chemistry. Take it away, Mary.
Thank you so much and welcome everybody. I am super excited to be participating in yet another How Women Lead event. Always amazing events, always advancing women and keeping us on our toes about owning our space and moving forward our agenda and taking our, taking our place, taking our spots that belong to us, taking the shot. That's what we're all talking about today. And I do want to get right into our panel because I want to make sure you have time to talk to them after they have shared some of their thoughts. So on our panel today, we have Shelly Archambault. She is a Fortune 500 board director, a strategic advisor former CEO, and she is also an author. Her book, Unapologetically Ambitious, is amazing. You should get it if you don't. And of course, I love the title. If you don't have it, you should definitely get it. We also have Nicole Taylor. She is the president and CEO of Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and a very large organization, the first Black female president and CEO of that organization. Nicole Collins Puri is the CEO of Tech Bridge Girls, and Julie Gordon White is the founder and CEO of Bossa Bars LLC. So very powerful panel today, and we want to jump right in and hear from them. So I'm going to start with you, Shelly. Can you tell us how important is it to create space for Black women to advance into the C-suite? And specifically, how has it happened for you, and how have you done it for others?
Thanks so much for the question, Mary, and thanks for having me, everybody. It's great to be here. You know, for so long, they haven't been creating space for women, right, to be successful. And one of my favorite quotes is Shirley Chisholm, right? If they don't give you a seat at the table, then bring a folding chair. And that's what we've been doing for decades.
Yes.
Well, when it comes to creating space, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can read about that corporations should do, pay equity, opportunity. That's not what I'm going to talk about, because there's lots of information out there on that. I'm going to talk about just 4 things that I think are really critical that we can do as leaders for each other, and that we should expect, right, from our leadership in terms of for us. The first is to affirm. It's really important that for women, right, and Black women especially, that we're told, hey, we're happy you're here. We believe that you can add value to our organization. I mean, we need to hear and provide that affirmation, because for many of us, we're in environments that are very male dominated, not very diverse. And so it's not obvious that they actually want us there as it is for others. So affirmation is really important, right? Second, feedback. Feedback. Let me tell you, studies show men don't like giving women feedback. And by the way, if you're a woman of color, you're really far at the end of the spectrum. So the problem is, if you don't get direct and real feedback, then you can't actually improve and grow. So when they give you that light touch feedback, that's not going to really make that much difference. It's not going to help you in your career. So it's really important to get feedback. And if you're not getting the real feedback, ask for it. Third, opportunity. We need to be given the opportunity to grow and to expand, and then get supported when we do. So you asked, Mary, how did it happen for me? Honestly, very much the same way. I'll tell you, probably the best boss I ever had was one who, when I did something, talk about affirming, he would say, Shelly, that was terrific. But I'll be candid, I'm not surprised, right? I'm not surprised. What does that say? Hey, I expected that from you, right? I affirmed you. I mean, that was amazing, right? In terms of overall support. And then opportunity, a lot of times we have to seek it out. We have to let people know we want opportunity, but there's no way I would have achieved all the things I've achieved if I wasn't given opportunities by different people every step of the way, and if I didn't take them, which is the other thing. Make sure when the opportunities come your way, you take them. I don't care if you're afraid. You take them. You just go get some help and support, which is my last point, so that you can make it through, right? So affirmation, feedback, opportunity, and support.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I just want to ask, what have you done? The third, I know I asked you 3 questions altogether, but the examples of and just kind of how have you made sure to help make space for other Black women and women in general in leadership?
You know what? It's really doing the same thing. I try very hard to inspire, right? When I see people, I want to inspire them to believe that they can do whatever they want to do, because I firmly believe it. If you're willing to do the work, make the trade-offs, and take help, you can literally do anything you want to do. So I do that. I provide opportunities, right? I make connections. I am very, what should I say, very forward in this arena. As a matter of fact, when I was CEO, I got feedback at times that we think that you're actually, basically over-indexing on women, right? We think you're providing special attention, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I didn't stop. Men have been providing special
I was
attention to
gonna
men
say.
forever. I don't care.
Did they ever say that to a man?
Exactly right. And here's the key, ladies. If you have power, use it. Okay, use it. That's why you're in the seat.
That's right. I love it. Absolutely. So next, I'm going to move to Nicole. Nicole, what kind of pressure does being the first Black woman in a key leadership position put on you to perform, and again, keeping with our theme, and to pave the way for others?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. And it's great to be here. I have 2 words: a lot. When I first saw the question, I'm like, I'm done. You can move on to the next speaker. But in all seriousness, of course, there's much more nuance to my answer, but it is a lot, and it is every day, and it is from all sides, including internally. First, I always acknowledge the immense privilege I have. Like Shelly said, I'm in a position of power and I use it, and especially in Silicon Valley, which is run by white male executives all over this valley. It's just incredible for me to reflect on my journey here. And I think that speaks to the kind of pressure that I get all the time. I'm the daughter of a Jamaican immigrant who was an unpaid domestic for many years, instilled the value of education, hard work, perseverance. Those of us who are Black folks know that we were told either by a grandmother, a mother, somebody, you can't just be as good as them. You've got to be way better than they are in order to just be seen and recognized. So, that was instilled, as many of you got a full ride scholarship to Stanford, did my undergrad and graduate work there, and then started my career as a teacher in West Oakland, where I was supposed to be a doctor, but at chemistry. And I remember calling my mother and said, I'm going to be a teacher, Mom. And she said, in this country, they don't respect teachers. How are you going to make it? You went to Stanford, you should be doing it. And I said, no, this is about me understanding how to make change. And I started there, moved into nonprofits, and throughout my career, it has been clear that Black women are often brought in to fix something, either within a company or organization. We're expected to come in and work miracles after somebody has done the opposite. And that's been the case. Today, I lead the world's not just largest community foundation. We haven't closed the books, but it's going to be north of $13 billion in assets. But it's one of the largest foundations, period. We're in the top 5, period. So that in and of itself is a lot of pressure. That's a lot of responsibility. Majority of our donors are white because it is Silicon Valley. And just to have a Black woman overseeing that level of assets comes with tremendous pressure and stress every day. I had to come in and rebuild the organization. My executive team happens to be all women because I hired the best people for each of the jobs that needed to get done, and they happen to be women and many women of color. And, we had together fix the operational, the leadership work, the culture work, the reputational work, external stakeholders. I had to rebuild trust. I was out every day. People were like, you're working too hard. I said, do you want me to fix this or not? I know how to do this, and I've been there 3 years. Reputation has been shifted. We're connected in the community that we never were. But the community also expects me to be and to give and to show up because of who I am as a Black woman. The press was unrelenting for the first couple of years. The first interview I did was with a reporter of a business journal who said to me, so are you really up for this? Can you really do this job?
Oh my God.
And he said, it's kind of a big organization. I said, well, I sat on the Federal Reserve Board and I was chair of the audit committee. And last time I checked, the Federal Reserve had significantly more assets than I'm managing right now. I think I can handle it. He's like, I mean, it's just really big. And then he proceeded to ask me why I was a single mother for so long. And was my ex-husband abusive? What? Questions men would never get.
Right.
That's how I was you know, baptized into the role in Silicon Valley. And I knew at that moment that I had to be like Shelly, who many of us look up to, unapologetically myself and a leader, and just move through. When 2020 happened and George Floyd got murdered, and the contentious election season, all of the things that we lived through, it became clear that our leadership was needed more than ever for so much. The healing that was needed, the recognition, you know, before we started, many of us are mothers to young Black men. And that murder and Ahmaud Arbery's murder just old only Black peer of my white colleagues, because I was getting calls from every corner, other CEOs and presidents calling me for advice. And I was like, I really am your only Black friend or your Black colleague in this position. It became very clear how few of us are still in this position. You know, and the second half, my staff said in 2020, I was asked to speak at an event or do interviews 60 times. And a majority of that was in the second half of the year, post George Floyd's murder. Again, the expectation and the pressure from community to step up and be and speak is tremendous. But I also think it's an honor. And I know I've got to use the position I am in to not just lead, but reach back and help other young Black women and other women of color get to where I'm at. When I came into this field, there were very few people of color, particularly women of color, and they reached out and they helped me along the way. And I know that I have to do the same, and I have to show up. If I'm a little tired, so be it. There's, you know, younger professionals need to see that it's possible to be in the role that I have. It is possible to command the amount of assets I have, and to engage with the donors that I have, and engage with the community that I'm blessed to serve. And so you just kind of suck it up.
Yeah, okay.
You kind of suck it up, and you keep going, and you rely on the network that you have and the people who love you and that you who can be yourself with. Get it together, and you keep moving forward, and you understand why you're doing what you're doing. I always have to reflect on why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So,
I want to make sure we get to the.
yeah, sorry.
It's fascinating to hear your experience, though, and I know that our audience is enjoying it, and I want to make sure they have time to ask questions of all of you. So I'm going to move now to Julie Gordon-White. And Julie, you often say, don't ask for a seat at the table, buy the table. So how have you carved your own path, and how do you create the narrative that leads you?
Thanks for having me, Mary, and everyone. You know, I'm going to be the contrarian here. After a great 10-year career in hospitality, director of sales and marketing for Sheraton Hotels in San Francisco, that lifestyle didn't fit for me. So I decided I was going to really take charge of my own economic independence, because I knew I wanted to have kids. I have three adulting kids now, and a husband, but I wanted to be able to be the mom I wanted, but I also wanted to make as much money as I wanted to, the way I wanted to do it. I've never been afraid of wanting to make money, because I think money allows you to do wonderful things, give it away, have incredible experiences. So I just said, that's it, I'm out. And thanks, Julie shared. I'm CEO of Bossa Bars, which, by the way, being a contrarian, this is my third company that I started in the pandemic, and I manufacture energy bars formulated specifically for women in the stages of menopause. So if you're in the stage of menopause, shout out to all of us. We're not having hot flashes, we're having power surges. Let's just own that language. And if you have one at work, just own it. let me just say that I just went sideways on my conversation. Own your hot flash at work. It's your superpower. We don't need to hide around menopause. We're, half the population are women and we're going through this thing. So that's a different workshop. But let me circle back. I believe in women knowing how to be in charge of their own economic independence. So even if you have an incredible corporate career, I want you to always know how to make your own money. If you're at that level or heading that way, then if you needed to, I know you can hang up a consulting shingle. Maybe you make the best peach cobbler on the planet, whatever that is. I always want women to understand how to make $100,000 at any time, because let's face it, in general, we live longer than men. Women end up being taking kids if in a divorce situation. So we need to know how to make our own money. We don't need to be vulnerable. So I just want to, make sure I put a pin in that. But if you decide that, getting to the C-suite and corporate life is for you, I get it. I actually love my corporate job too. But I want you to approach it from an intrapreneurial thought process. So I want you to think about your department like it's your own company. So what are your objectives? What are your key strategies to hit those key financial metrics? What action steps have to happen? And let me just tell you, the numbers don't lie. If you want to be empowered in your career, you know your numbers that make your department work, what makes it profitable, how do you manage your expenses? You need to know that better than anybody else. And by doing that, now you have the power, because at the end of the day, business is about money. It's about metrics, corporate business, I should say. When you own your own company, it's about impact and then the money comes. But in corporate life, let's just be real. It's about the numbers. When you've got shareholders, you have investors and shareholders and stakeholders, know your numbers. That's where your power is. And the last thing is to bring the CEO mindset. Even if you are, only in charge of your own one position, or if you have a team or a whole department or a whole division, even if you are not the CEO or the chairman of the board, bring the CEO mindset every single time. That level of ownership, commitment, and leadership, and knowing your numbers, it's going to get you exactly to where you want to go.
I love it. Thank you so much. I hope everybody is taking notes. I certainly am. I'm loving this conversation. So, Nicole Taylor, what kind of pressure does I'm on the wrong Nicole. Nicole Collins Puri. There is an expectation of leading with perfection and excellence while also creating greater social impact and equity in your role. So how do you balance the weight of perfection with, wokeness and being woke?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Marianne. It's so good to see everyone and all familiar faces that I haven't seen in a while. So happy to see you. So, from my perspective, I'm coming from a nonprofit organization that is focused on STEM equity and social justice. So I sit in this kind of extreme intersection between the consciousness of wokeness, but the reality of what Nicole talked about, Silicon Valley reality, right? Because our partners, the people we're trying to influence, are literally on the opposite side of the spectrum. So with that understanding, there is always this push and pull of being perfect, because as we all have heard, being a woman of color in a leadership position, eyes are double down on you. One mistake sets the tone for the rest of your leadership. You don't have that much space, as Shelly talked about, to even maneuver and try and risk and all those type of things. It's harder, right, in that place. But then on the flip side, you have this staff and community that has a strong expectation that you are dismantling white supremacist behaviors and cultures that is like perfection, right? And you are able to hold to their standard of being this incredible advocate and champion that is literally breaking down all the barriers, pushing through, bulldozing through all of the barriers and inequities that are impacting our communities. And the reality is there is no balance to that. Actually, it's a lot of stress because you will never meet either's expectations to the standards in which they've given you. And I've learned that a lot in the past probably year during the racial unrest and the exponential growth of my organization. I'm like literally getting ready to go from like tripling the amount of our operating budget in less than 5 years. And to see the eyes and that stress Nicole talked about, it's just unrealistic to say or even believe that you are going to be able to hold those standards on either side. So what I've come to, try to hold on to in this, and I think it's important for all of us, is number one, grace. We need the grace for ourselves, and we need grace from both sides of the wall to give it to us. I think it's also about being kind to ourselves, because we are not these mystical, magical unicorns flying in the air that have no feelings, no understanding, no consciousness, no mistakes, no, stumbles. Like, I always have a little challenge around Black girl magic because it makes us feel like we're not people. Right. And it gives people kind of the allegiance or the ability to kind of make this expectation that is bigger than a reality standard to measure to. So be kind to ourselves when we do stumble, but also trust and know that what we do and how we show up is truly a superpower, like no other. And this is what I give back to the next generation and my network and peers. Like, you really can't tell us much, to be very honest, because of the fact of how we just show up in the world for so many people. And we have to trust and believe in like who we are just in our presence. And sometimes that presence and how we show up is not aligned with the two standards that we are being measured against, but being unapologetically authentic in ourselves is what ultimately allows us to navigate both of these worlds more effectively. So I don't have a good answer other than, you need grace for yourself. And you need to ask it for others to have for you, because often people forget because they think you're this mystical being that has no feelings and no, skin or room or space to maneuver. Be kind to yourself and give yourself a pat on the back when you are killing it, which is most of the time. And be kind when things just fall apart and you make mistakes. Be unapologetically you. And trust that your presence when you show up, you are a superpower because of all of the things that you have to navigate as a woman of color in leadership. And then continue to change the paradigm. Create the new standard that reflects more of us and how we lead and how we need to show up.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that when it is always so difficult to balance out, as you said, especially when you're talking about social impact and doing the right thing and looking out for the good of others as well as for your organization. So, having that, I like to call it the business and the societal value of what we do. And so when I am presenting concepts that are like that, I always marry those two things, because as we've all heard, the numbers and money are critical to everything. So you really have to explain to people why the social things that we should be doing also have a very strong business impact and impact on the bottom line. And so in my industry, I often start with talking about how much money the organizations are leaving on the table every day because of the bias that exists throughout the entire drug development process. And so if you are not taking the time to make sure your clinical trials have diverse people enrolled in them, if you're not making sure that the specialists who tend to be not diverse are making sure, if you're not making sure they're prescribing your newest, most innovative therapies to diverse populations, because research shows they are not. Both of those things. Clinical trials is primarily white males who get asked to be in those, and getting the newest therapies, white males get. So you know how much money your company is leaving on the table by you not being woke and not being socially aware. So, you know, so I love how you are marrying that. And that's what we have to do, because you need to be able to talk about both those things and put the funding emphasis on it. But also there is an additional role and responsibility that we are now stepping into more and more as women and as women of color, and that is board seats. And so, because the board of directors really have the power to make sure that companies are doing the right thing. If we're there, they'll do it. But I want to go back to Shelly, and I want to have you talk a little bit about why it's so important for Black women to consider board roles as the natural progression for their careers.
Yep, got it. I'll be candid. I didn't even really realize this whole board of directors thing until I was probably in my early 30s. And I was like, wait a minute, the board of directors hires and fires the CEO? Mm-hmm. I want that job. So that's when that came on the list of, okay, that's the next goal I want to go after. But the reason is, it's all about having influence and impact. I mean, what drives me more than anything is the ability to influence and impact the results. And whether that is the results of a business or an organization, or the results of who gets to participate in the room, or who gets opportunities, or all of that. And so I think it's important that we are in the boardroom because our voices are necessary. Let me tell you, let me just share one quick story. I'm in a board meeting, Fortune 500 company, and they're going through the normal annual succession planning. All right. And they put up names of who they think CFO, CEO, right? The whole bit. Well, the CFO list doesn't have the name of a woman who's one of the most senior women in finance as a succession candidate. Why not? Right. And the guys kind of looked as guys. We had a few women, but the CEO, whatever guy, look at each other and probably, what's going on here? They said, well, she's just not quite, the gravitas, doesn't quite have the, the look, her hair's kind of, I mean, they would give me all this crap. She's the words. They were giving me all these reasons that had nothing to do with skill or capability. All right. And so I said, well, has anybody talked to her about these things? Mm-hmm. Nope. Remember that feedback point I made? Yeah. Nope. Well, listen, if I wasn't in the room, that would have just gone by. Mm-hmm. That's long story short, she's now on that succession list. Thank you very much. All right. And I fully expect she has a really good shot. So watch this page in about 5 years. But at any rate, my point is we have to be in the room because the voices, it's uncomfortable for people to give women and people of color feedback. Mm-hmm. So if you don't understand what the issues are, you can't help actually address to actually make sure the feedback is happening.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it's so common, as you said, to find all of these other reasons and go way in, so to speak, on criticizing women and finding reasons not to support and promote, as opposed to paying attention to the reasons why. And we do have to be the voices in the room to speak up. So just very quickly, we have to go to the Q&A. So I want to encourage the audience to put your questions in the chat, please. And we will be sure to answer your questions and give our leaders an opportunity to answer the questions. Again, the goals of this session are to understand leaders' responsibility of sending the ladder back down, to help allies understand how to help open doors, and then to provide counsel, strategies, and learnings, which I think you've heard so much in just this short time, to help attendees envision themselves in the C-suite and to advocate for others. So as we start to get those questions coming in, I just want each of the panelists to very quickly go around the room and just like in a minute or less, just to say, how is it that you motivate yourself every day to just stay on point with the things that you have to push? I'm not talking about just to do your regular job, but when you need that courage to push for this next thing, how do you, what are you doing, saying to yourself? How are you preparing yourself, motivating yourself to do that? And I'll start with you, Julie.
Well, thank you. I spend a lot of time on mindset work. First of all, working out, cycling every morning, not like the crazy, like intense class, like my own bike, my own speed, doing mindset work, because the mind is the trickiest part. Because if you don't believe without any doubt, it's very difficult to achieve your goals. So don't underestimate mindset work. There's lots of great videos on YouTube. Go hunt them down or find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share some of the things that I focus on and who I listen to. So mindset, 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 and then do what you love. Forget the rest. That's how I feel.
Thank you.
Life's too short.
Thank you for getting to that point. Shelly, go ahead. I know you got it.
Thank you. Yes, because I'm going to have to drop, unfortunately. You know, when it comes to where do I get the power, the issue, focus to keep going and pushing through all these things?
Yes.
I just think about my family, my history, my ancestors. If they could do what they did to give me the opportunity to be where I am, then I don't care what's in front of me. I've got to be able to do it myself. So I just lean on my family, my history, my ancestors.
I love that. That is great. There is more to it than just you. That's
exactly right.
And
Thank
that
you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Remembering who paved the way for us is critical. Okay, Nicole Taylor.
Yeah, and kind of similar to Shelly, I think about the people who are relying on me and who can't be in the rooms where the decisions are made.
Yes.
About their own lives, right? And about their communities. So I keep them front and center. They are the folks that I am in this role to help and empower and enable them to have the lives they want. And that usually gets me over whatever madness I'm dealing with at that point in time.
I love it. Thank you. And Nicole Collins-Puri.
Thanks. I would just say my faith, I don't think things are happenstance. I always know whatever I'm going through, there's a purpose and a reason for it. And so I have to feel settled in it. And that allows me to like navigate it and show up the best way I know how I can in those moments.
Excellent. Thank you. So I just want to get to one question, and then I'm going to turn over to Kimberly because we do want you to get into your breakout rooms. And the question, how did you position yourself to get to your first C-suite role? I think that's so important because that is something when I'm mentoring folks that a lot of folks just, because they haven't seen people, they haven't been around, had access to people in those roles to see folks progress to that. A lot of folks just don't even know how you would do it. So just how did you position yourself to get your first C-suite role? And again, if you could do it in 1 minute or less so that we can get to the breakout rooms. Yeah. Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, so I had to think back about that first time, but it's actually with each C-suite role I've had, not just the first one. Who, who are your mentors? Who do you have that you can rely on, who can also boost you, but also open those doors? And every step of the way, that was the case. There are people who knew of what I could do and helped open that door so that I could walk through it. That is really important. So thinking about who your mentors are and who your network is, and relying on that. And in addition, I always show up authentically. And my thing is, if you don't want me, that's okay. Somebody else will.
Okay, thank you. Nicole, or second Nicole.
I have to say, Julie. I mean, my first CEO role is me in this position right now. And, you know, I thought I saw a question about allies and how can folks show up is like, I have this mantra is like, I don't always have to physically be in the room if somebody else can put me in the room too.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, Julie has been a strong advocate for me, my leadership in spaces that I would have never even been privy to. And so I think it's always important to make sure you have a strong network and you connect yourself with a community of supporters and women that not only you can advocate for, but they can advocate strongly for you too.
That's great. Thank you. And a lot of us can give a lot of accolades to Miss Julie. Julie Astro Abrams. Yeah, she has helped so many of us. All right, Julie Gordon White.
Got lots of Nicoles and lots of Julies here.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things. One, I always thought it's important to be the best at the job I have in the moment.
Right.
I'm a future thinker, and so it's easy to slip forward. So when I was in corporate, make sure I was doing whatever I needed to do to be great at the role that I had. And then also understanding what made the next role successful. What were those things that that leader needed to have to be successful so I could learn and model while I was doing a great job at my own position. So when the opportunity came, I was, you know, next up, if you will. So because I was ready.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. You have been amazing. I want to turn it over now to Kimberly Good. She is the Chief Communications and Social Impact Officer at BMO Financial Group, and her organization is the sponsor of this session today, making it all available for all of us to do. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for being such a great advocate and supporter of how women lead. So we want to turn it over to you to summarize what we've heard and discussed in the panel today, and also to take us to the breakout groups.
Well, good morning, everyone. What an amazing way to start the day. Julie, can we do this every day? This is how I want to start my morning. Such a powerful conversation. It is a pleasure for BMO Financial Group to be able to sponsor this because we have a mission to boldly grow the good in business and life. And one of our pillars is to create an inclusive society. And one of the ways that we do that is not just working inside our house to get our things in order, but to have these kinds of sessions to make sure that we are hearing and connecting and really resonating with the most critical issues to remove those barriers for Black women, for the Indigenous community, for any marginalized or underrepresented group. So this has been wonderful for me personally and wonderful for me as a C-suite executive to take back to my organization to make sure that we are actively doing what we can to realize the vision of what we've heard today. We have had amazing insights from all of our speakers. We started by being unapologetically ambitious, and definitely get the book if you haven't. I have mine. And we ended and heard about being unapologetically you. So many rich insights. I was literally almost like Julie in tears because it just so resonated. So with all of those things that we can do, the last thing I'll leave you with as we go into breakouts is 5 things to stop doing. So we know what we can do. So let's stop being overthinking about this. At the end of the day, don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt the sister next to you. If you see an opportunity, go for it. Stop overthinking. Secondly, stop going to your intuitively first choice go-to people. This is especially for our allies and those who aren't present on the call. The talent is out there. We have to cast a wider net to get the right folks into the right roles. Stop donating and investing with organizations that aren't part of the solution. Money talks, ladies. We heard that earlier today. Use not only your voice, use your pocketbooks. Stop being passive. At the end of the day, we cannot sit on the sidelines when we see inequity occurring. We need to be active. And then stop not holding people accountable. At the end of the day, we hear a lot of talk, pledges, and commitments, particularly when things go wrong. make sure that we are holding organizations and individuals accountable to realizing that. And we know that includes my corporation as well. And that's why it's important for us to be in the house to help realize that. So with all of that, I think there's a slide we may see that will just help direct us to the very quick breakout where you get to be even more intimate. We want you to just go into these sessions and talk about what resonated with you and what your personal takeaway is. What are you going to do coming out of this conversation to help all of us create more space in the C-suite and in boardrooms for Black women? So now the magic happens, ladies. Very nice to see everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Kimberly. That was great.
All of you are fabulous. Golly. God, Nicole, I'm just weeping. I can't help it.
Oh, welcome back, everyone.
I think we're all back.
I think, yeah, I think so. Right. Before we go, Julie, would you like to take us through some of the board opportunities we have available?
Yeah, I just want to make sure people know that we have a couple corporate board seats that we have been asked to help fill. One is a company in molecular engineering. They're looking for someone with Valerie. We just talked background in life sciences, who knows how to raise money and can partner with that CEO. So this is an earlier stage company. We also have a clinical contract research organization looking for somebody who has been leading clinical CRO, direct experience understanding Asia and China specifically. And then an Oakland-based NASDAQ listed company in IT and cybersecurity is looking for someone who's actually been on a NASDAQ board with some cybersecurity and medical staffing background. So we'll send this out to you to make sure you've got this. But if you have not given us your board bio and you're interested in going on a board, please pop, Paola, if you can put the little jot form into the chat, we'll make sure that you get that. But we have, 3 to 5, board roles a week that we're trying to source for us. So we want to put you in front of those folks. I think, Nicole, we also have some of the upcoming events. I don't know if somebody else is slated to give that information, but I want to make sure you all know about it. In addition to this event, obviously, we're doing a one on Black corporate directors passing the torch. It's going to be fantastic. If you thought today was great, this one is going to be equally as beautiful. So I know, Kimberly, you need to come every morning. So hopefully we will see you at all of these. I also do a 1-hour overview on our ecosystem. So if you're new to the organization, or if you have friends that you want to meet how women lead and get involved, we do a little self-assessment as part of that once a month for an hour. It's always on our website. The next one is on March 8th. It's free. We just want to make sure people know how they can get their needs met and really jam using this organization. We also have had requests to know about boards and commissions at the state and federal level. So we have an event coming up. Fiona Ma, our state treasurer, is going to be there. She has numerous board commission roles that she's trying to fill. We also have, we just wrapped up our first of the year board readiness session. We'll have another one starting in April. We had 75 people in that program. It was just unbelievable, 20 corporate directors speaking. We also have an overview of how to invest, either in angel or venture investing, coming up on March 9th and 16th. People love this program. We do it repeatedly. And Nancy Hayes is fantastic. And then if you haven't thought about investing, a lot of you are already investors in our venture firm. But if you want to start thinking about investing or meet some of our LPs and some of the Black women leading in venture, and in fact, with diverse kind of venture frames, including revenue share models for investing that Melissa Bradley is doing, that's February 25th. And then if you want to learn how to really dive into due diligence in investing, that's on March 10th. So we got a lot of things coming up for you, ladies. Our whole goal is for you to, have whatever pathway, access, networks, and content that you need to step into whatever level of leadership and power you're looking for next.
Are these all 8 a.m. sessions?
They are all different times of the day.
Oh, okay.
So it's on the website. Sorry, that's not on here. But I just want to say thank you to our brilliant, gorgeous leaders who both brought people to the event today as hosts, but also our speakers. I wept for half of this. It was so freaking powerful and authentic and honest and real. And you are all such a great example for us. We're going to promote all of your tips that you came up with today, and make sure other people have the benefit of learning from you. So thank you. And thank you, Kimberly and BMO, for your support, for making this happen. Love you, ladies.
Thank you so much.